It's not always just about the money. Sometimes it's the principle. That's why we were stunned when we found this. Take a look. A member of the assembly plugging his electric vehicle into a standard outlet in the assembly parking area under the Capitol. There's the outlet right there doing that instead of paying to use one of the EV charging stations there. Why should you care? Because you paid for it. Assemblyman Harvey Epstein of Manhattan has apparently never seen an outlet he didn't like. We have photos from different occasions of him using an adapter to plug his electric car into a standard outlet instead of using one of the charging stations in the assembly parking lot. Those stations are pay to use. The outlet is free to the car owner, but it's costing the state of New York, meaning you and I are paying for the charge. I tracked down Harvey Epstein outside of a committee meeting.
You seem to ignore the pay-to-use charging stations for your car and charge your car in a public outlet on the taxpayer's dime. And I'm just wondering why.
I use the pay-to-use charging stations every day. And sometimes when there's no chargers, I use the other charger, but 90% of the time, I use the chargers, the pay-to-use chargers.
As we continued to press him, he seemed to see the error of his ways.
Yeah, I totally understand it, and I'm glad you brought it to my attention. And I don't want to have bad optics about that. But at the same time, I don't know how you charge a car if they're all being used all the time.
Okay. So are you going to rethink doing that from here on out?
I think it doesn't make any sense for me to do it going forward.
As the Thruway Authority prepares to raise your tolls at the start of the new year, we've learned the authority is also raising the salaries of its top officials. Coming to a toll plaza near you, a Thruway toll hike. The Thruway Authority says a toll increase, or adjustment as they like to call it, is needed to keep up with highway maintenance. But we've discovered it's also needed to maintain salary increases for the top Thruway brass.
The Thruway budget is a hefty budget. They have a lot of money in there. They can work with what they got.
Cases in point, and combing through public salary records for 2020 and 2021, we find Thruway Chief of Staff Matthew Trapasso went from a salary of $145,000 to $175,000, 30 grand or 20% more in just 1 year. Director of Maintenance and Operations James Constellid was making $167,000 in 2020, $188 grand the next year, a nice $21,000 or 13% bump.
Salaries will always increase. They'll increase a modest amount. We're committed to increasing it only a modest amount, and it'll increase as it does for our labor folks and MC Management Confidential employees.
30,000 and 20,000, is that modest though?
No, you won't see that.
$1 million for one house. It's really only worth a fraction of that. Albany County has accepted a $1 million federal grant to fix up the dilapidated home in Albany's South End. The grant was meant for 3 homes, but that didn't work out financially. So now it can only be used on this one house right here. And that $1 million is your taxpayer money, so you better believe you paid for it. Welcome to 52nd Avenue at Albany's South End. Sure, it'll be nice to restore it to its early 1900s glory, but let's look at the numbers. The home is owned by the Albany County Land Bank and assessed at $70,000. Fully renovated, the Land Bank expects to sell it for $175,000. And there's the problem, spending the bulk of $1 million taxpayer dollars on what will be a $175,000 home.
What?
Mark Grimm is in the Republican minority on the Albany County Legislature. The legislature last month voted to accept the $1 million federal grant.
What do you think of this project?
Well, you don't have to have a degree in economics to know that doesn't make sense.
If $142,000 a year sounds like a big bite out of the taxpayer pie,
I'm opposed to the salary increase. To me, it's shocking.
We've got the icing on the cake. Some of the top names in both the Senate and Assembly are getting even more. They get a 5-figure leadership stipend as well.
Whether it's stipends or whether it's just increase in salary, we're already paid well enough.
Jeffrey Dinowitz gets $18,000 extra as the chair of the Assembly Codes Committee. He didn't have much to say when I asked him about it.
Any worry that that's an excessive amount, that stipend, on top of the $142,000?
No.
Nope. I just don't believe in stipends. I won't take it.
But 14 others do, for a grand total of $390,500 a year. Money that could go a long way, say, in the hands of a local nonprofit.
You would consider giving up the stipend?
I'd be open to lowering our salary. Giving up the stipend or lowering our salary.